think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Crable, and I'm the new Executive Director of the Decorative Arts Center of Ohio. I want to welcome you to this installment of our artist talk for the exhibition 2x3+18 diptychs and triptychs by 18 Ohio artists, which is we're incredibly excited to have at the museum right now. Our talk today is presented by Art Werger. Art works with composition as a slice of time and space, and with representation as a record of shared experience. He creates images that thrust the viewer into an active relationship with the static picture. His subjects are often observed from an oblique aerial angle or from an objective distance, placing the viewer in the position of the omniscient narrator. Within this framework, themes of personal interactions and the relationship of people with their environment are explored. Werger works primarily in the media of etching and mezzotint. He is a professor in the printmaking program at Ohio University in Athens, go Bobcats, where he previously served as Foundations Chair for 7 years before moving to the printmaking area, where he served as Chair of Printmaking. Before coming to Ohio University, he taught at Wesleyan College in Macon, Georgia, for 18 years, where he was Division Chief of Fine Arts. Werger's work in etching and mezzotint has been internationally exhibited for over 30 years. He's best known for aerial images of cities and suburbs and for his narrative mezzotints. In 2015, he received both the International Printmaking Prize at the Guilin International Printmaking Biennial in Guilin, China, and the Grand Prize at the International Mezzotint Festival at Ekaterinburg, Russia. Werger has works in the collection of the Ekaterinburg Museum, the Guilin International Printmaking Museum, the Corcoran Gallery of Art, the Boston Public Library, the Brooklyn Museum, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, the Trenton Museum, and the Smithsonian Institution. Everyone, please welcome Art.
I hope you'll forgive me if I take off my mask here, speak a little bit more clearly. So the title of this talk is Etching in the Age of Instagram. And perhaps it might be called Printmaking in the Digital Age, or An Etcher in the Age of Instagram. So we'll be talking about different print media in addition to just etching itself. Thank you for coming out today to participate in the presentation. I want to thank the organizers of the exhibit and of the talk for all their efforts in making it happen. It's a very strange experience to be venturing out into the world with this pandemic going on, so I'm really happy that we have hundreds of people here this afternoon. The camera is on me real tight, right? Okay. Before this all started, I was reflecting on my career as an artist and a teacher, thinking about the prospect of retiring and evaluating the decisions that I've made in the last 40 years. As an artist who loved to draw, I gravitated to the arcane allure of printmaking, first with lithography and eventually with etching. When I started in the field of etching, it was still dominated by the long shadow of Stanley William Hayter, whose print shop, Atelier 17, served as the training ground for all serious artists in the medium. Working with a surrealist agenda, Hayter was instrumental in working with Picasso, Miro, Calder, Pollock, Kandinsky, Rothko, all the big names of that time. And all the serious students who wanted to become etchers had to study at Atelier 17. Here's a classic shot of Stanley William Hayter in the shop, lingering over a tray of nitric acid, watching his metal plate bite while smoking a cigarette. Safety concerns were not much of an issue, even as I was being trained in the mid-1970s. I remember my classmates competing to see how long they could hold their bare hands in the tray of acid before taking it out. If you had an open cuticle, you knew it. So one of the most important changes that I've witnessed in the last 40 years has been towards a safer and more sustainable practice in making art in the various print media. Switching from the more noxious chemicals like nitric acid to ferric chloride and electrolysis, moving from oil-based inks to water-based alternatives in most print media, finding household cleaning agents to replace mineral spirits and before that benzene. All of these evolving technologies have allowed the print media, etching, lithography, relief printing, and screen printing to thrive. Of course, the other major shift during this time period has been the dominance of the computer and what has become known as the digital age. Computer technology has been integrated into virtually all of the print media, allowing artists to expand both their developmental ideas and the final outcome. Still, the question remains, why would an artist in this day and age choose to work in media which are demanding, esoteric, time-consuming, and extremely challenging, if not manually indirect? What is it that draws us to these media? For many of us, the ease and availability of digital technology is both a blessing and a curse, leading to a universal kind of look, a lack of individual character, and a tendency towards shallowness. Heralded as just another tool in the artist's toolbox, the computer is potentially much more than a tool. It can become a tool with a mind of its own. We all have this most powerful creative tool right here in our pocket. And as Andy Warhol prophesied in the 1960s, everyone is now famous. In the Instagram age, we are all famous, if not for 15 minutes, at least until the next screen is clicked. These powerful digital tools have expanded our creative potential, adding exponentially to the media realm. But far from replacing old technology, digital media have actually led to a revived interest in many of the print media. Considered almost extinct 25 years ago, letterpress printing, based in the methods of Johannes Gutenberg, had experienced a great revival. While a few years ago, people couldn't give away the old equipment for letterpress, today it's very hard to find a vintage Vanderbilt press. With computer-generated polymer plates, letterpress printing has taken on new life. There's a nostalgic allure to the appearance of letterpress and a power to the voice within it. Amos Kennedy, working out of Detroit, has used letterpress as a voice for justice and innumerable causes over the years. A printer by self-definition rather than an artist, he believes in the power of the press as a voice of freedom. It allows the individual to be heard by dissemination of the multiple. Individual posters are printed on rich, layered backgrounds. As he travels from city to city, he seeks out nonprofits and community action groups in order to help them define their voice through his press. The resulting editions are split between Amos and the organizers, or the organizations he works with, so that he can continue his operation. The resulting works are sold for the nominal fee of $20, keeping them affordable to anybody who wants one. Also in letterpress, Just a Jar Press in Marietta is a storefront shop that features woodcut posters and letterpress work, run by Bobby Rosenstein. His work is an example of the handmade gig poster movement that has taken off in recent years. He works for Nelsonville Music Festival and does all of the posters for Stewart's Opera House in Nelsonville as well. Another regional print shop was founded just in 2018 by two Ohio University alumni, the Columbus Printed Art Center. It's an organization devoted to the practice and advancement of fine art print media as an influential contemporary art form and fundamental component of a free and engaged society. With facilities for relief, etching, letterpress, and risograph, as well as photography and commercial processes, CPAC has the potential to become a regional hub for print media. Just this past year at Ohio University, we set up a letterpress shop. The type and bindery shop, which opened just last year, 9 presses and over 400 drawers of type, a huge new facility, which we're just getting started. Around the country, printmaking has come out of the studio into the public sphere. Pop-up events like this one, in which local artists create large woodcuts which are printed as theater and street show. Local artists may work for months ahead of time to design and cut the blocks that are printed as a big social event. Drive-by Press, started over 15 years ago by 2 graduate students at the University of Wisconsin, travels the country with a 400-year-old press, promoting print knowledge and printing unique t-shirts that they now have. They now have 2 locations running out of Los Angeles and New York. In Athens, we have worked with woodcut artists like Bill Fick in making giant puppets in conjunction with Passionworks Studio and the Honey for the Heart Parade, which occurs every year at Halloween. If you know the Halloween block party, it's a very big festival in Athens every year. We're trying to bring an artistic and positive part of that experience. Artists like Swoon, who started out with weed pasting relief prints, guerrilla style, onto city buildings, has expanded her work as she's become one of the darlings of the art world. Here's a recent installation at the Javits Center in New York, including interactive elements like jewelry boxes that can be opened by the visitors. Other artists like Willie Cole have extended print media with more conceptual approaches. Works like this one, Masks, made by burning irons into fabric, allude to servant culture and African heritage. Addressing issues of climate change, Todd Anderson of Clemson University has updated the traditions of Japanese ukiyo-e woodcut to document Glacier National Monument as it disappears. Working with other artists and writers, Anderson has made a long-term commitment to preserving the beauty of these disappearing landscapes. With works like Cruel, Sue Coe, who works in woodcut, lithography, and photogravure, messages the cruelty of slaughterhouses, which are based in her own first-hand observations, something that would never be allowed today. Her message is ideal for the power of the graphic media. She also sells her work for a very nominal fee in order to support her causes. So one of the most important aspects of the printmaking process is that of the shared community. An outgrowth of the need to share a facility. Few artists can afford to have a full running shop of the press by themselves. Printmakers also willfully share technical knowledge. This knowledge is disseminated in workshops and demonstrations through organizations like the Mid-America Print Council, MAPC, and the Southern Graphics Council International. Each year, thousands of artists working in print meet to discuss topics, techniques, and social issues. This bond is the glue that holds us together as printmakers. When I was first teaching in Georgia, 1982, the organization was known as the Southeast Printmaking Council. And it then grew to be the Southern Printmaking Conference. Now it's Southern Printmaking Conference International. So it keeps growing exponentially. I want to finish up with a story about the most maligned printmaking technique of all, the Mezzotint. Originally invented in the 1600s as the first way to print tonalities of gray, before the halftone, before lithography. The Mezzotint is a laborious process in which the surface of a copper plate is pitted with the teeth of a tool called a rocker. Cross-hatched lines are built up in at least 12 different directions. The pitted plate holds ink, which prints a rich black. The image is then created by smoothing the surface back down to a flat surface. I had always been intrigued by the look of mezzotints, but in all my years of schooling, could not find anyone who knew how to do them or could teach me how to do it. So I sort of picked it up on my own in the mid-1980s, just as Carol Waxman came out with her comprehensive book on the technique. To date, I've done over 500 mezzotints, which I believe allows me to claim that I'm the most prolific artist in the medium ever. I don't know what that says about my personality, but they can take anywhere from a day to complete or over a year. And so here we have an installation called Moments, which was at the Dayton Visual Arts Center in 2017. The larger pieces, which are up to 2 feet by 3 feet, this one is 24 inches square, 2 feet by 2 feet, can take anywhere from a year, even a year and a half to complete. This one is entitled Rising Tide. My working in the studio for extended periods of time in complete seclusion is balanced by the opportunities that my work has provided. It's connected me with worldwide communities of like-minded print artists. Here's a scene from the closing ceremony of the International Mezzotint Festival in Ekaterinburg, Russia in 2017. My wife, Carla Hackenauer, and I have both been served as visiting artists at the Guanlan printmaking facility in China. Here is the China Print Museum, which opened in 2015, a gigantic facility dedicated just to the print artists. This past year, I was lucky to travel to the graphic workshop in Dresden, Germany, for 5 weeks through the Ohio Arts Council, and as a visiting artist exchange program operating out of Zimpfer Press in Cleveland. All of these opportunities are through the community of printmaking, which transcends national boundaries. The world of printmaking is flourishing in the digital age. High tech needs to balance with high touch. Last year when I was showing some Rembrandt etching self-portraits to my students, they referred to them as selfies. Growing up in the age of the Kardashians, they are comfortable with celebrity for celebrity's sake. But along with that, they have an increasing appreciation of the hard work and accomplishment that can come from printmaking. When I first attended a Southern Graphics conference in 1982, there were 75 artists there, all sharing their knowledge and love of print media. Today, there are many hundreds attending regional conferences, and many thousands attending the big national and international festivals. As I look towards retiring at the end of this year, I'm reflecting on my choice to concentrate in the medium of etching and to carry on these traditions to a new generation. Our program at Ohio University has grown and become the 8th ranked program in the country. That's due to our tradition, our faculty, our students, our facility, and our interdisciplinarity. But there is a real threat to the continuation of traditional processes throughout much of academia. We have flourished through a balance of new and old technology intermingling. But to experience one without the other is to diminish the realms of possibility. As creative artists, we never lose the old techniques, we love them. We only build upon them as we work towards the future. Thank you. So we have plenty of time. I can answer any questions. Anybody have some questions? Has everybody seen the exhibit? There's quite a few print media represented there. Oh, if you haven't.
I haven't seen it.
I hope you get a chance to write up and talk. It was a wonderful exhibit to see in the Reif Gallery, but it has such a different, more intimate character here at the Decorative Arts Center. Really appreciate the groupings of just a few artists in each room. It really has a wonderful sensibility to it. My kudos to the curators. Yes?
Could you talk a little bit about how you came up with the idea for the work that's over there right now?
Well, there's two different pieces there, both diptychs, but quite different
So one
in
is the beach
appearance.
scene, and then the other one is over.
So one is the beach scene, and the other is an overview of an aerial scene. I started doing aerials way back when I was a grad student at the University of Wisconsin in the early 80s. And the basic approach to the aerial view at the time for me was twofold. It was first of all a way to deal with reconfiguring the picture space into not just a window, but really an expansive peripheral view of things. And so I was dealing with multiple vanishing points, panoramic images, telephoto kind of images, and I focused in on the aerial view as a way of showing as much as I could in a sort of an abstract way. It was realistic, but it was a bit abstracted because of the flattening that occurs from a distance. So thinking about works like A. Mondrian's Broadway Boogie Woogie, which is just a grid, horizontals and verticals, but it relates to like a map of a city street. I was thinking about this distance and flattening as being a nod to abstraction while still being realistic. And so that was one of the goals there. Gradually that led into more of a narrative scene as I started to zoom in and populate the stories. They became more like an omniscient narrator who can see everything that's going on and tell the story of everything, even though they're not really part of the scene. And so that has been an ongoing theme that I've worked with for many, many years. The beach scene is more of a eye-level, traditional, looking towards the horizon situation. But that allowed me to really get into the use of the etching and aquatint, which is part of the process in a much different way. Those pieces are extremely challenging in that I'm working towards a realistic result. But because I'm working in the medium of etching, it provides very unique challenges. So as I'm working on an etching plate, a copper plate usually, the image is reversed. And I'm working at a table, so I'll be working from the side or upside down. And I'm working through stages from light gray to black, and I'm drawing with acid-resistant materials, so it looks dark where it's going to be light. And I'm working through stages, so it becomes a very abstracted process. And I will work on an etching, taking it through the stages for sometimes 2 or 3 months before I finally etch the plates in acid, clean off all of the acid-resistant materials, clean the plate, print them, and for the first time, see the results of my efforts of many months of labor. So that's a very exciting moment as a printmaker, where all of this work magically comes together, and it's all there at once. If you're a painter, you make a change and you reflect on it, you make another change and you reflect on it, make a change and you reflect on it, and you see the development as you go. One of the criticisms of printmaking is that it is indirect. And that's because you can work on it for a long time before you see what you're doing. But I love that indirectness because I love that moment of surprise. You see so much result in that one moment. It's a very emotional time. So for me, that's one of the charms of it. And as much as I've done it, I still don't know what the end result is going to be. Each piece is a surprise, so it's a dialogue with the medium, rather than me just telling the medium what to do. If that makes sense. Yes? Sorry.
No. I already have.
Do the follow-up?
I just wanted to know if if you let your students know how easy they have it with finding reference, because for instance, starting those aerial prints back in the day must have been much harder to find references as opposed to just Googling things right now.
Well, yeah, we have immediate access to everything. And I remember when I started, I was in illustration for quite a while. So what we were trained to do in illustration was to keep what we called a morgue. And a morgue was a clipping file, notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of clippings. So that when we were given an assignment, like going back to that time, draw Richard Nixon. Okay, I can open my book and I've cut out from Newsweek and everything. I've cut out like 35 pictures of Richard Nixon, and I can work from that. So we have access to everything right at our hands now, and that's wonderful. We can't beat that. But at the same time, you don't really appreciate the full quality of an image when it's digitized and you're not experiencing the work in your hands, ink on paper. There's something about the objectness of that, the smell of it, the whole experience of it, which gets lost if you only remember digital images. Yes, question?
Well, you were mentioning about announcing little music festival posters.
Yeah.
Which I really love. I'm old enough that they remind me of those psychedelic posters that came out.
Oh yeah, me too.
Were those prints too?
A lot of those were letterpress back in the 60s and 70s, the psychedelic kind of posters. But a lot of those were commercially printed as well.
What about the Shepherd Ferry posters?
Yeah, the Shepherd Ferry posters, those were mass printed. But they have a look of letterpress. They're very simply designed. I think the Hope poster was 2-color.
Yes.
And so it has that look of being pared back for a simple hand-done printing process. I've shown some work which is kind of activist, and I think one of the things that's important about that is that it gives the individual artist a way to print a multiple, which can be disseminated to a big group. But it has a DIY, do-it-yourself look to it, and that becomes important as well. When you see protesters and they've got mass-marketed signs, then it looks like they are funded by or hired. And so to have that personal look to it, I think, is an important part of the messaging.
I do too. Thank you. Art,
Yeah. I can show the video if I can access it. Let me negotiate around here. It might take just a moment to pull up. There's always a lot of questions about how I make something like the work which is up in the exhibit, the color work. So what I'm going to show is a time-lapse video of the printing process. And it is conveniently of the piece which is in the exhibit, or one of the 2 panels. So I'm working on 2 copper plates, and each one holds maybe 10 different colors. Warm colors on the first plate, cool colors on the second plate. Ink them up, print them together, and voila, I have the finished product. It takes a long time to get to this stage, knowing which colors go where, making sure the plates are working together. And then once all of that work is done, which is in this case about a year and a half for the whole thing, then to ink up and print one impression, one finished print, takes about an hour and a half. So this video is not an hour and a half long, it is time-lapse, but it shows the complete process. Great, any questions related to that? So I've just opened up a whole new question. I don't know. But hopefully that answers some of the questions about it. Sorry?
That was terrific.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody should go see these works. Awesome.
It's a wonderful show and very well curated.
Is that similar to what people did years ago in reverse painting? Or is it not like that?
In what?
When we did reverse painting on glass?
Reverse painting on glass. Well, it's other than being reversed, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with reverse painting, but so if you're painting, but you're going to be seeing it from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is similar in that mirror image respect. Yes. Well, thanks again for coming out, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.